came back 6 months later and did some wrestling, but then he quit because he said the rigors of his life, it was just too stressful for him. And then he started going into film. And I don't know if you are a big fan of old school MMA, but I used to love Pride. That was over in Japan. And he fought in Pride 1 and he got submitted. And I remember I had the DVD and I remember seeing, so cause I couldn't watch them. I had to watch the DVDs and I put this fight in. There's a 7-foot tall, massive guy. And he fought this Japanese dude that was much smaller than him. And the Japanese dude tapped him out. And I just thought, what did I just see? Like, how did this guy lose? But then he started popping up in movies and he's really turned his life around. And now he's doing really well. And they said he was supposed to wrestle for TNA, Total Nonstop Wrestling. Yeah, I think that's what it was called. And he got hit by a cement truck and injuries from that kept him from going into the wrestling with Jeff Jarrett. In that, like, they had the 5-sided, 6-sided ring, so he didn't do that, and now he's just acting in movies.
Wait, so can we just touch on this bank robbing thing? Let's just say that you had the perfect formula for being a bank robber, right? The ex-presidents from Point Break.
Yeah.
You're in and out in 90 seconds. You never go for the vault. You always have the mask. You change out the car, all this stuff. And then one day he finds himself in a lineup and someone say, how am I going to recognize him? They're all, oh, that's him. It's the 400-pound guy. It's him right there. Like, no one, like, you can never get taken in if you have those dimensions. He's like 6'9" or 6'11", and I think at his peak mass, like, if you look him up, they just list the biggest he ever was. They say like 360 or 390, whereas now he's probably like 330 or 340, but he was so huge. He's so big. Like, how it's terrible to be a criminal. Escape car. Well, we're gonna need something pretty big for the getaway car. Like, unless he's gonna Flintstones that thing.
And then, he spent 7 years in jail. And he fought Koji Kitao, one of those names. I just want to make sure I got his name right. And also, I know this is bad, but he was voted most embarrassing wrestler in 2003. But a lot of big name wrestlers have gotten that, so he shouldn't feel totally bad about it. But he's had an interesting life, man.
And of course, his highlight is Troy, even though it was just a little bit part.
I mean, if we had to put together, we've done it before, 60-second characters. Great podcast. You should listen to it. If you put together characters who had a long-lasting impact with a few seconds of screen time, it's definitely Bulgarius, right? Isn't it Bulgarius is his name?
Boagrius. Yeah.
Bulgarian. Balagrius. I mean, he did a lot with minimal screen time.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I love that scene so much. And he's just, that was him at peak size.
Oh, yeah, that was because that was what, 2004, maybe? 2005?
Yeah. So it was against Brad Pitt at peak size, which looked like a peanut next to him.
Yeah, he was huge. So I guess this was after his stint in WWE. So then he was able to, because when he was on the road, you probably couldn't work out that much. So he probably bulked back up after WWE and just got jacked for that role. And then it led to The Condemned and Protector. He's been a heavy in some good movies.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, how about this? Let's take a break. Let's me and you recreate the scene from Troy, and we'll be right back to talk more Boar. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks, and we got to talk Nathan Jones, John. We got to talk about his introduction in this movie, and you made a great point about it before we started potting. I want to hear about it some more.
Yeah, it's so funny too. Like, you reviewed, like, he was a bank robber, he was the wrestler, he's always the bad guy. Before this movie, he was that mutant inbred hillbilly, brutal murderer in Charlie's Farm. When we first meet him, he's playing around on the ground, frolicking with baby animals. It's like the director saying, it's like, hey, he's a nice, good guy in this audience, just so you know.
It's like, were you worried about those little lambs? Were you worried that he was just going to snap one of their necks?
Part of me wondered if he wasn't going to pull a Pet Cemetery 2 and gut one of them in 5 minutes for them to eat.
Yeah, I'll be right back. I got some veal for us.
And then in this movie, he does a lot of nice things. Yep. But we see him, before he ever meets this Boar, singing Ice, Ice, Baby in the car. And he is so emphatic and smiling. And that was like one of my happiest movie moments of the year.
Now I want to see him and Everybody Wants Some singing with the guys in that car.
Yeah, exactly. Like his face, like he was having such a blast.
He looks right
Nathan
at the camera.
Jones, the actor.
He looks directly at the camera. I loved it.
It was like he was deliberately breaking fourth wall for fun.
Yeah. Yeah, just like, yeah, you could tell that he liked being the, you know, it's also, there's a scene in this movie though, where he's just picking up a kid and slamming him into a lake.
Yep.
I felt bad for that kid. That's a long way to fall.
Kid might have been having fun. I don't know. But yeah, it might have felt like a belly flop.
And then he kind of went after poor Bill Moseley pretty bad, though. He was kind of a jerk to him.
Yeah, he scared him.
Yeah. Because he called him Burn, right?
Burn.
Yeah, he goes, "It's Bernie, mate." And then he stares him down. And then they're like, "Hey, why don't you take Bruce with you?" And he's like, "No, Bruce, you stay and protect the family." He's very... Bernie does not like Bruce as a man. He puts up with him, but I don't think he respects him.
We do know that Bruce is on his third marriage, and that might be that's a big point of contention in this movie too, even with Rob.
Yeah, that was interesting how they kept bringing that up, but they spend so little time with these characters to make like the third marriage. Like that's an interesting character piece for a guy who gets pushed in front of a boar then decapitated.
Yeah. Like, I think it just should have been a second marriage, and all that skepticism would have been fine. But they made it as the third. They pushed it a little too far.
Because he seems like a good dude, right? Or maybe
he does. He seems like a very good dude. Like, well, I don't even know why he got divorced twice.
So if you have this, it's like Larry Crown. But so you have this scene where you have this middle part where they're gone. I guess if John Jarrett and the other guy weren't in there in the campers, and you spent more time with these characters, then sure, third marriage. But to spend as little bit of time with them and to put them on that, I guess, and then they totally forget about him. At the end, they're all smiling. Like, whatever. He was kind of a, what did they say on Hot Shots Part 2 when Rowan Atkinson falls off the cliff? And Charlie Sheen. Also, Charlie Sheen is like, he really was a wiener or something like that. So I guess no one misses poor Bruce when he dies.
Poor dude, he got purged.
Yeah, he did. He got
really badly.
And also the director made a point saying in this movie Nathan Jones runs. He made a big deal about Nathan Jones running because that's a lot of work on those knees.
It's a big dude.
I mean that's yeah. He doesn't do many wind sprints.
Probably not. Well, it looked like a fast jog. Well, so that jogging comes right after he meets our boar, right? Because he's singing "Ice Ice Baby," and the only reason we don't get to hear him sing that entire, we hear 2 full verses, by the way, folks. Like and it does a whole verse and then it cuts, and then he does a whole nother verse, and the boar teleports out of nowhere. But he was in a little hill country in that case, so maybe he just came over a hill and he's singing. And it just, again, like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. I keep thinking of Jurassic Park. It knocks over and flips his truck.
Yep. Like nothing.
And then it just goes on about its business, right? Because he gets out and it's not there. And then he's just running back like, holy crap, I gotta, go check the family.
So this boar must have made a really game time split-second decision. Because he just saw it. Because he couldn't have seen it, just saw it. It wasn't stalking it because he came at it from it, like he T-boned it. So the boar just sort of knocked it over, then kept going. He's just a jerk, this boar.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I feel like that should have hurt the boar, but movies usually don't address things like that.
Oh, what's interesting is the side of the boar is all tore up. So in certain interviews, people were asking, is this boar a zombie? And he just said, no, this boar uses that side to, I guess boars use one of their sides to scratch along stuff. And I guess this boar just, through its many battles and running and all this stuff, scratched one side of its body wide open. So that's why it was all gross and gangly, because it used that side as a battering ram.
I had a similar thought, but even its tail, though, you can see the vertebrae of its tail. Like, what is this thing fighting that happened? And and it's got a dead eye, and it's got, and a lot of the wounds that we see on it are like, when we first see it, they almost strike me as like open wounds, not old scars.
It ran through, like, it was knocking fences. Maybe it got some barbed wire trapped on it. Maybe it's it's probably so used to open land that's not, used to fencing, and barbed wire would rip you up pretty good.
It's just a mean son of a bitch, is what it is.
That's right, a jerk. Now,
And every time it opens its mouth, because we usually see it after it's killed someone, it is just like such a slop splattering, like slobber blood pool. Like, like it's like if like a really shaggy dog just drank red corn syrup, and just all those little tendrils of clumped hair just soaked in blood. And then you imagine the thing wobbling its head. Like, God, I love this monster.
Oh, so the director said it's his smashing side. That's why it's like that.
Smashing side.
Yeah. And then also there's two things I want to talk about. So I have in all caps in red, Nathan Jones stabs and fistfights a boar. Then I have the boar blocked a shovel attack. Then I have, it's like an Evil Dead-esque type fight scene because Nathan Jones is just getting flung everywhere. Like purposely, comedically, if that makes sense. It's comedic on purpose.
When he like jumps on its head as he's getting impaled, and it's just shaking him up and down like a bucking bronco, but just the head. And
he impales himself, doesn't he? Doesn't he kind of impale himself?
I couldn't. It looked like that, but I feel like that's just like the cheaper budgeted movie aspect where you just run into it.
Yeah, and I mean the director said when you had to move this boar, and also Nathan Jones punched the eye out of it, so then they had to fix it. They said they they had two boars, one that he could beat up and one that he couldn't. And also he runs at the boar with a shovel. And he never swings it.
He goes at it with the flat end too, though.
And he never really. The boar does sweeps the leg.
Cobra Kai's him.
Yeah, while not moving, and just sweeps his leg and knocks him on the ground. And he gets his ribs are turned to jelly, correct?
Well, I mean, he got impaled there.
Yeah.
Like he even goes to move it. Like that flap of skin, whether or not there were ribs detached or something. That was a gnarly moment.
Yeah. His ribs are done, correct?
Half of them, at least. One side. You could just throw that on a grill. Just cut it off of him.
Ribs on the bobby.
But he's punching it. And as hokey as this was, I loved it. Yeah. I did. And not just because it was Nathan Jones. It's because still they so commit to the movement of the boar. And even though the boar has no accuracy, it's just snapping its mouth in a ridiculous way. I love all the snapping and twitching, even when the boar isn't fighting. Like when Bill Moseley, Bruce, first sees the thing, it twitches its ear, it twitches its head, it snarls a little bit. I love that it's like every opportunity that you see this thing's head, it's doing something. Oh, it's not just sitting there.
This is a beautifully built boar. I mean, practical effects live. I love it. And then how do you feel about its death at the end when the car smashes into it?
So I thought that was kind of what I would call the director pulling a fast one. Yeah. Because they got slowly cornered. The two women, the mother and the daughter, get cornered to this area. And as they're getting cornered, Sasha, who is out looking for Bill and Ken, is high speed, comes over a ledge, right, and crashes into the – she wouldn't have even seen it. So it's like that was just like pulling a fast one for a fun scene, right? And then we think it's dead. Oh, it's, two shots. We're going to shoot out its eye. Did you notice that the side that they shot the eye, they shot the already dead eye?
Oh, I did not notice that.
That was the eye that was already dead. And so when it got up at the end and wasn't dead, I'm like, well, it still has one good eye for the sequel.
It made a noise. It's going to be really sore, this boar.
Well, and also the side with the bad eye was the same side that we saw that had all those wounds on the side, and that is the same exact side that got hit by the car where we saw the open ribs. So in other words, it was the bad side that got all the hits at the end.
Wow.
Which is funny because it was CGI at that point. So it's not like you're doing that to save money.
Yeah. So
that was CGI.
It's bad side just keeps taking beatings.
But so I'm just thinking it might have a little limp or something, but for Boar 2, hint, hint, director Chris Sun, for Boar 2. And then at the end, the other fast one they pull, well, not a fast, the fast one they pull, the Boar being alive was